This little child is the youngest scientist in the world. One day, he invents a machine that astonishes all the big scientists of the world. However, his parents want him to never appear in front of people. Instead, his father wants to make him a shepherd so that he can spend his life raising cattle and goats in their village. But the boy doesn't want to do any of these. So one day, he packs his suitcase and leaves home. His name is T.S. With the help of a marker, he turns the traffic light red and a train stops there. T.S. then places his suitcase on top of the train. But the two guards of that train spot T.S. He then goes under the train to hide, lying in the middle of the railway line. And right at that moment, the train starts moving. Feeling very scared after seeing that, he jumps out from under the moving train, not knowing what to do. But luckily, there was a ladder for loading goods there. He runs and climbs onto it, then onto the train laughing. He then lies down on the abandoned baggage of the train with his suitcase. And from there begins his tale of leaving home and traveling thousands of miles. But what happened to him throughout this entire journey, and how he fulfilled his dream of becoming a great scientist at such a young age, that's what we'll see in this whole movie. The story begins in a small village in the USA, quite far from the city. Despite its small size, the village was incredibly beautiful, surrounded by lush greenery and a few hills. However, very few families lived here, and among these families, we found one that stood out: the home of a 7-year-old boy named T.S. Spivet. He was a very calm and peaceful boy, but his intelligence was far from ordinary because he was a child genius. He loved to map and draw, and his talent in these areas was exceptional. He also had a big brother named Lytton who shared his passion. So, T.S. spent a lot of time playing with his older brother. Moreover, a train passed over their village every day, and T.S. knew its timing very well. T.S.'s father was a farmer, and like his brother, T.S. also had an interest in farming because of his father. This made his father love his older brother more. Then we see an incident from a year ago where a science teacher was giving a lecture to the science students. The teacher was talking about a machine that utilizes various theories scientifically, and due to these, the machine would operate automatically without any type of electricity. This meant it wouldn't need batteries, oil, or even solar power. However, this seemed unbelievable to everyone, as they thought that even if the machine could be built, it might not be possible to operate it without electricity in any way. And it was at this museum that T.S. had come to visit. He was sitting there, listening intently to the director's words. The teacher was talking more about that machine, and T.S. was paying close attention to what was being said. Then the teacher asked if anyone among them could work on such theories and create a device. But all the students were sitting silently. No one was giving any answers because they all knew that creating such a device was never possible. However, T.S. believed in his heart that he could do it, and he silently challenged himself. After the lecture ended, he approached the teacher and told him that he would create such a machine. Then one morning, at that moment, their mother arrived. Their mother was a special insect specialist, whose work was to research insects all day long. Then T.S. walked to the room where the phone was, which happened to be his father's room. Here, we see that his father's room resembled a museum, with various specimens of his hunts displayed. T.S. was imagining something with each item there. Suddenly, the phone rang again from the same number. This time, T.S. answered the call. It was from a large institution, and the director of that institution was calling T.S. Then, from the other end, Miss Gibson asks him if they can talk to the scientist of the house. Upon hearing this, T.S. thinks they might want to talk to his father. But at that moment, he realizes that his father is not a scientist. So he tries to imitate his father's voice heavily. However, Miss Gibson can understand. She tells T.S. that they don't have time to fool around and that he should call his father. T.S. then says, "I'm very sorry for the fun. My father is a bit away, and if you want, you can tell me. I'll inform him." Then Miss Gibson continues to say that Mr. T.S., the person at their house who created the machine, has been nominated for a national award. And to receive this award, he needs to come to New York. She adds that they want to take him to this award through a small statement at the national event so that everyone recognizes the scientist. Because no one has been able to create the machine he made based on the theory until today. Then TS realizes that the design and machine he had sent to an institute could potentially win a national award, something he hadn't even imagined. TS tells Miss Gibson, "All right, I'll inform him about this matter," and then hangs up the phone. But the child was very worried about how to inform his family about this, as he couldn't understand how they would believe that he was going to receive such a big award. Yes, he knew very well that after telling his family, no one would believe him. Then he goes to his sister and tells her, "Sister, I have been selected for a big institute in New York for my invention. I have been nominated for the national award, so now I have to go to New York. Will you take me there?" Upon hearing this, Mandala gets very angry and says, "Are you crazy? Are you daydreaming all day long? I can't fulfill my dreams in New York. And how will I take you there?" TS wanted to inform his father about this matter. However, his father was very short-tempered, so he couldn't muster the courage to tell him about it. Moreover, he couldn't discuss this matter with his mother, because she was a rather eccentric woman who was always preoccupied with catching insects, paying no attention to her children. Meanwhile, TS was devising a plan. He was thinking that when there would be no one to keep an eye on him at home, he would take the opportunity to go to New York. And luck favored him with such an opportunity as the day his mother would be away for 7 days. Afterward, TS extensively searched his home for a map of the USA. Using that map, he marked the places where he needed to go in New York. Then, he gathered all his belongings that he might need on his journey and prepared them neatly in a suitcase. Once everything was packed, he went to his mother's room and wrote a letter. In the letter, he wrote, "My dear family, please don't worry about me. I am embarking on a very important mission in my life. I know you are all very busy, so I don't want to bother you with this matter. However, please trust me that one day I will take care of you all myself, and I am very grateful to all of you for your love. I love you all very much." After writing the letter, he placed it inside the room and swung it closed. Then, he took a diary belonging to his mother and kept it with himself. After that, he went to see his beloved dog. Seeing the dog, he became very emotional and bid it farewell. Then, he took his suitcase and left the house. However, carrying such a heavy suitcase was very painful for him. He then went to a vacant room in their house and brought a trolley from there. Then, he started walking with the suitcase on the trolley. He looked at his watch because the train schedule was at 5:45 in the morning. Suddenly, he noticed that his father was leaving in a car. Seeing this, he became very scared, but his father drove away straight from there. He doesn't notice his son's gaze and feels very upset about it. Because his father does not look at him and think about it, he moves forward. Then he comes to a station, but he knows the train does not stop there. So, he plans in his mind and climbs on top of the train signal first, and he marks it with a marker as red, so that when the train sees the red signal, it stops there. And according to his plan, the train stops there. And in this opportunity, he lifts his suitcase onto the train. But just as he was about to climb himself, the train guard noticed him and started running to catch him, because the guard understood that it was the child who stopped the train. However, PS dodges the guard's eyes, climbs straight onto a passing train, and steps onto the train's roof. After that, when the train started moving again, he sat there and enjoyed the scenic views around him. And in this way, time passes until morning comes, with the sunlight shining brightly in all directions. And TS imagines seeing his brother Lytton here, because Lytton had a great desire to travel everywhere one day. If Lytton were here today, perhaps he would have come with him. After many hours of journey, the train stops at a place called Casper, Wyoming. TS then gets off the train. But after getting off the train, he sees many police officers there, and overhearing their conversation, TS can understand that a child has gone missing from a nearby house this morning, and they suspect it might be his family. Upon hearing this, TS becomes very scared, and meanwhile, the police officers start searching throughout the entire train. The case unfolds when they find his suitcase hidden inside a compartment on top of the train. Then a police officer comes there and looks inside through the window of the compartment, where he sees 3 statues. The police officer cannot understand that the middle one is TS. So, after a while, the guard leaves from there, and the train starts moving again. Then, the train continues to run for several more hours. TS becomes even more tired and falls asleep inside the train. However, New York was still far away from there. The train continues to run all day long. TS was deeply exhausted. But TS didn't have anything to eat. And now, even if he wanted, he couldn't go anywhere else. That's why he sat by the window and looked at the scenes outside. And at one point, when evening came, the train stopped at a place called North Plate. TS then got off the train immediately, and he found himself in front of a hot dog stand. But suddenly he sees an old man in front of him, and the man was stealing something from the train. Seeing TS there, he seeks help from him, and TS, considering the old man as helpless, helps him. So TS becomes happy and takes him with him to where this old man used to stay. Then the old man starts telling TS various kinds of fairy tales and tries to entertain him. But TS tells the man that these are just stories without any logic or scientific evidence. Hearing this, the man thinks to himself, what a strange child he is. Then the man tells him a few more stories and leaves him. TS then quickly goes to a nearby hot dog stand. Afterward, he buys those and returns to the train. Then he starts eating the food, and the train starts moving again. Then he tries to sleep there, but he couldn't sleep at all. So, he takes out his mother's diary that he brought along. To pass the time, he starts reading the diary. In it, his mother has written down her thoughts. TS is astonished to find that almost everywhere, it's written in his mother's own words. From TS's birth until he grew up, almost every picture is in his mother's diary. Then, he can understand them. How much his mother loves him. And while looking at all this, the whole night passes by. Then, in the morning, the train arrives in the city of Chicago. And it is in this city where the institution is located that will award TS. Then TS puts his essential belongings inside a small bag and leaves the big suitcase there because it's not possible for him to carry it along. Then, he starts walking with the small bag swinging on his shoulder. Just then, a police officer spots him and starts following him. When the police officer asks him some questions, TS tries to run away from there. Running and running, he comes to a bridge. But as soon as he reaches the bridge, it suddenly splits into 2 parts for the passage of a ship. The police officer was right behind him. Due to this, TS suddenly laughs and, for a moment, doesn't fall. Instead, he holds onto a railing and swings. Seeing this, the police officer became very scared and was instructing him in various ways on how to get up. TS managed to get up from there with a lot of effort, but his hands were in a lot of pain. Then he continues to walk along the road. Walking on the road, he starts asking people for a lift. Then a truck comes, stops there, and the driver lifts TS. After driving all night in the morning, the car stops in front of the institution. Then, TS thanks the man, gets out of the car, and leaves. Then slowly, TS enters the institution. Inside, he sees that the place is decorated with various things, and seeing these, he becomes fascinated. Then he goes to the reception and tells a lady, "My name is TS, and I am a little scientist. Miss Gibson, the director here, called me. They are going to give me an award for one of my discoveries." Then the receptionist lady calls Miss Gibson and tells her that TS has arrived. Then TS waits there for Miss Gibson. After a while, Miss Gibson arrives there. Miss Gibson asks him, "Are you Mr. TS, who discovered a magnetic machine?" But Miss Gibson thinks TS might be lying. Miss Gibson then starts scolding the receptionist lady and asks her why they let this child come inside. She questions why they believed what he said. However, at that moment, TS continues to assert his theories from behind. stating that it was through those theories that he discovered the machine. Miss Gibson and all the women present there are astonished. Miss Gibson realizes that this is the real TS. She then rushes to him and holds him tightly. But TS feels a sharp pain in his chest from this, as when he jumped from the bridge, he sustained an injury to his chest. Then Miss Gibson promptly takes him to the doctor. Afterwards, the doctor treats him. Then Miss Gibson says, "I have many plans for you. Within a very short time, both you and I will become very famous." Then Miss Gibson takes TS to a science lab. There, TS's brain was being tested. Miss Gibson wanted to know what was in TS's mind at such a young age that he could make such big discoveries. A little later, Miss Gibson gets TS ready and takes him to the award function. TS was sitting there, quietly. Then many high-ranking scientists were coming there. They all came to see TS there. They were talking to him. Even they were discussing TS there. Because he has achieved the impossible at such a young age. Many media were also there. After a while, the function started. And then it was time for TS to give his speech. TS stepped onto the stage and saw hundreds of people in front of him, awestruck and gazing at him. This makes him very nervous. Then, TS starts speaking with a lot of confidence. "First of all, I apologize because you are all much bigger personalities than me. Many of you are great scientists and holders of prestigious degrees. You have invited me to such a big stage, which amazes me. All of you may have spent a lot of time behind science and have gifted the world with many valuable things, but I haven't been able to do anything like that. However, I have a strong desire to do a lot. I also want to become a great scientist like you. But I didn't come here for that. I am here because today I will be given an award. I just wanted to come here and speak in front of you. The inspiration I receive from you today will help me become greater for the rest of my life." Hearing TS's words, everyone present there stood up and applauded. They all joined hands to applaud. Everyone was amazed to hear TS's words. Then we saw TS's mother there, who had come upon hearing the news. But at that moment, she did not meet TS. After the ceremony ended, Miss Gibson took TS for an interview. Then the interview with TS began. The host asked TS many strange questions. The host was trying to insult TS, and, as a result, TS remained silent and did not respond at all. After a while, the host said, "It's okay, we have another special guest with us." Then, he called TS's mother there. Seeing her mother, TS became very nervous because she had somewhat misrepresented, hiding things from her family. After that, the two of them finished the interview, and when it was over, TS's mother took her away. After a while, it was seen that her father had also come there. Then they all returned home together. Hello friends, this is how the story comes to an end. If you liked our videos, you can subscribe to our channel.